The line at the DMV was longer than usual that morning. Not loud, not chaotic, just quiet people waiting, holding documents, some flipping through envelopes, some just sitting still like they were trying to remember if they forgot something important. An older man near the front kept checking his glasses case, opening it, closing it, like he wasn't sure what they were about to ask him to prove. Nothing about that moment looked serious, but for him, it was. Because what used to be a simple renewal had changed in ways he didn't fully understand yet. My name is Sarah, and on Sarah Miller Updates, I spend my time helping people understand changes like this before they become a problem. I have seen how something as routine as renewing a driver's license can quietly shift, especially for people over 65, and suddenly feel uncertain. If you or someone in your family is in that stage of life, I want you to stay with me, because what I am about to explain is not being talked about clearly, and it is catching people off guard. Now let me say this first, so you can take a breath. This is not about losing your license. This is about understanding what the system is starting to require, so you are never surprised by it, because once you understand it, you can prepare for it. And here is the part most people stop paying attention to. Do not make that mistake. The rules themselves are not always brand new. What is changing is how consistently they are being applied, and what is being checked more carefully than before. Now let me explain how this actually works behind the scenes. Driver licensing is handled by the Department of Motor Vehicles, often called the DMV, which is the state agency responsible for issuing licenses and maintaining driver records. For drivers over a certain age, the DMV may apply additional review steps. Not as a punishment, but as part of safety policies tied to vision, reaction time, and medical conditions. These reviews are not random. They are triggered by age thresholds, renewal cycles, medical reports, or even observations made during the application process. And this is where most people misunderstand the system. They think, if I've been driving safely for years, nothing changes. But the system is not only looking at your past, it is looking at current ability. And here is the part I want you to stay for, because this is what is changing right now in a way people are not expecting. The first change is more frequent renewal requirements. That means instead of renewing your license every long cycle, you may now be required to renew more often once you reach a certain age, not because something is wrong, but because the system wants more regular updates. The second change is vision testing becoming more consistent. In the past, some people renewed without an in-person check. Now, more states are requiring an actual vision test during renewal, meaning your eyesight must meet specific standards at that moment. And the third change, and this is the one many people are missing, is the possibility of additional review. That can include a written test, a driving test, or a request for medical information depending on what is observed or reported. It does not happen to everyone, but it happens more often than people expect. Let me tell you about someone I will call Harold. Harold had been driving for over 40 years without a single serious issue. When he went to renew his license, he expected the same simple process. But this time, he was asked to take a vision test. Then, because of a slight concern, he was asked to complete an additional review. It wasn't something he had prepared for. Now I want to be clear. I share stories like this to help you understand what this looks like in real life, not to identify any one person. And I want to pause here, because this part matters. For many people, driving is independence. It is not just transportation. It is the ability to go where you want, when you want, without asking anyone for help. So when something changes around your license, it does not feel small. It feels personal. It feels like something important is being questioned. That feeling, that quiet concern, is real. But here is where awareness changes everything. Because once you know what to expect, you can prepare calmly instead of reacting under pressure. Now let me address some of the things I keep hearing from people. The first one sounds like this. Once you have your license, they can't take it away unless you do something wrong. That is not fully accurate. Licenses can be reviewed based on age-related requirements even without a violation. The next thing I hear is, if I can still drive, I don't need to worry about tests. The system may still require a check, even if you feel confident behind the wheel. Another one people say is, they will tell me in advance if something changes. Often, changes are only noticed when you go to renew, not long before. And here is another one. This only happens to people with medical problems. Not always. Sometimes it is simply part of the process based on age and renewal rules. Now stay with me, because what I am about to explain next is where careful people still get caught. The hidden traps are not obvious. Missing a renewal notice, not bringing the right documents, not realizing a vision test will be required, feeling rushed and agreeing to something without fully understanding it. Even something as simple as not updating your address can delay or complicate the process. Let me tell you about someone I will call Linda. Linda went to renew her license and assumed it would take a few minutes. She didn't bring her updated documents and she didn't expect additional steps. What could have been simple became stressful. Now, I want to be clear. I share stories like this so you can recognize the situation, not to identify any one person. Now, let me speak directly to you, depending on your situation. If you are over 65 and your renewal is coming up soon, this matters because you may face steps that were not required before. If you are helping a parent or spouse manage their license, this matters because preparation can make the process much smoother. If you have recently noticed changes in your vision or health, this matters because those factors may be reviewed during renewal. And here's the part most people are grateful they stayed for. First, check your license expiration date and do not wait until the last moment. Second, bring all required documents with you, including identification and any updates. Third, be prepared for a vision test and make sure your glasses or contacts are current. Fourth, give yourself time during the process so you are not rushed. Fifth, if something is unclear, ask questions before agreeing to anything. Now I need to say something directly, because I have seen this happen. There are people who call or message older drivers claiming they can guarantee license renewal for a fee. That is not how the DMV works. No one can bypass official requirements. If someone promises that, it is a warning sign. And here is something many people do not realize. If you are a U.S. citizen or a green card holder, meaning you have the permanent right to live in the United States, and you are facing delays or confusion with a government agency, you can contact your congressional representative's Constituent Services Office. That simply means a local office that helps people communicate with federal or state agencies when things feel stuck. And remember this. You still have control. You have the right to ask questions. You have the right to take your time. You have the right to understand every step before moving forward. These are not small things. They are your protection. And here's the perspective I want to leave you with. Driving rules have changed before. Processes have shifted before. And people who prepared, who stayed informed, who approached it calmly, moved through it without losing their independence. This moment is not permanent. It is just something to understand. So take a breath, prepare ahead, and move forward with clarity instead of uncertainty. I read the comments carefully, and if you want to share your situation or ask something specific, you can write it below. I will do my best to help you understand what applies to you so you are not facing it alone.